Hello friends, welcome to the channel, Bob here, and this is a Pantheon video today. I'm playing EverQuest on P99. I'm just testing out my spear, my epic, which I've been waiting to do. Okay. Oh, guard badness kind of dying. Yeah, I'm just trying out my epic here, basically. I'm trying only to use the epic because I'm just trying to work out percentages, how much damage it does to mobs, that kind of thing. So I think that kind of thing is quite interesting. Yeah, so this is a Pantheon video today. First one I've done for a while. I think primarily because people get a bit heated about this kind of thing, and I'm just, I'm 51. I can't be bothered dealing with all the drama. But this one is about a particular subject that I find quite important in MMOs that I play, and that's soloing, basically. And thankfully, it seems as though they're going for the, what should we say, the EverQuest P99 approach, or the EverQuest approach. So, content is aimed at groups, and it's designed around groups, but it's not specifically trying to lock out solo players. And I think that's a really, really good thing. I just think that if you imagine P99 without, say, like if you've ever watched, as an example, who should we pick out? If you ever watched Nibrus's Enchanter videos, and just how they would not be possible, if back in the day the developers took the stance that absolutely not, you can't solo, and we're going to code out all the opportunities that people have got to solo. If that was their opinion or their design philosophy back in the day, yeah, then essentially those videos wouldn't exist. And I think EverQuest then and P99 now would be less fun for it. I think I just don't understand the. I think did guard stump resist? I didn't think you could resist the epic. Maybe you can. Let me just get it on him again. Yeah, sorry, as I was saying, I just think that those games would be less interesting and those videos weren't possible. And I kind of watch those videos and I don't think to myself, oh, that's not fair, he shouldn't be able to do that. I look at those videos and think like, wow, I mean, that's someone who has seriously learnt their class and know all the nuances and ins and outs of it, and they've really learnt the zone and how everything works as well, and like more power to them. There are some people who kind of don't feel that way, and I don't really understand it. Like in the video they were talking about people who are concerned about players being able to solo, and I do wonder who those players are and what type of games they played, because if you played any of the games back in the day, well, I primarily talk about Ultra Online, EverQuest, and like potentially Dark Age of Camelot. If you played any of those games back in the day, they were all soloable, and people tout EverQuest as being, the difficult one, and etc. etc. And that was very soloable. In the guild that I was in, there was, I remember, an enchanter specifically who worked nights, and he only played during the day when the guild didn't play. So he soloed his enchanter to 50 and then did some, dungeon runs, some gut runs and all that kind of thing when he got to 50 as a solo player, So I never feel that these things should be coded out of a game. I can understand creating an MMO with a sense of community, so that's your primary focus. But I think it would be a shame if there was an intent to code those things out of the game. It's something that New World tried to do actually, and yeah, I'm just not a fan of it. I like this not needing any mana to kill stuff with. This is good fun. Apart from root, I should say. I'm using Immobilize, which I think is a bit pricey on the mana front. I don't have. Is it Paralyzing Earth? I don't get that until 56 or something. So that's kind of what that would be the one to get, I think, probably. It's funny because the mobs will cross the zone line, obviously without zoning. Let's just finish him off. There we go. Yeah, so I'm sidetracking myself. I know that. I do apologise. But yes, but the long and short of it seems to be that they're following the EverQuest model, and that's really, really good. So designing content around groups, but they're not they're not designing stuff into the game that prevents you from soloing. So you kind of spoke about like leveling up on the landscape. So you go for like EverQuest, you know, you kill blue mobs, right? That's how we've always done it. That's how we'll continue to do it. Hopefully, it talks about coming back to dungeons and soloing dungeons. That. There's no problem with that. What I liked was the attitude, you know, because at one point the interviewer said, how do you feel about some groups being better at soloing and there being an imbalance and stuff? And his attitude was, well, that's life. That's life. You wouldn't have thought someone would. And he said, what are they doing? Are they dragging a corpse? Yeah, they just said that's life. That's how it is. You're going to get some groups that, because of the game mechanics and the character makeup, you're just going to get some who are more adept at doing that kind of stuff. And they did talk a little about the people who are worried about that kind of thing. And I kind of refer to my previous point where maybe there are even people on P99 who watch. I can't imagine there is, but I guess there must be, because people just like to moan about stuff, don't they? But maybe there are people on P99 who watch Nibrus's videos and think, oh, that's not right, you shouldn't be able to do that. But we've all accepted that's... Those of us who have played the game just accepted that, well, that's how it was. You know, necromancers were good at this, enchanters were good at that, shamans were good at that. That's just how it is. And they seem to have gone with that. They seem to be going with that mindset, which is really good. And they're not bothered about some classes being better than others at other classes, which I think was also really, really promising. Promising comments. So in that regard, yeah, I'm really happy that that's the course they're taking. And as I said before, I do wonder who these people are who don't like people soloing in an MMO. And first of all, I should have some of them a pet, because to pull that mob, you kind of really need a pet to pull it safely. But an MMO gives an experience that single player games don't give. So you think of your top 10 single player RPGs, whatever it may be: Baldur's Gate, Planescape Torment, Witcher 3, Dungeon Master, Eye of the Beholder, whatever ones you want to choose, you know, Dragon's Dogma, whatever that may be. None of those games offer what EverQuest offers. None of those games offer what even something like New World offers. You know, the things that New World I like about New World, no other game offers that. None of those games offer what Ultra Online offer. You know, and I think that's kind of, so I do wonder why some people are just so dead. I think some people are just so dead against something sometimes. It's kind of, maybe it's a bit of like a mental thing, you know. It's just their thing that they don't think should be allowed, and they get really angry about it and don't think that people should do it. But the people that I'm most puzzled about are people that played those games and they've reached this point and they're saying, "Oh, I want Pantheon to be group only," you know, and all get kind of cross or anxious about people soloing. And you know, if those people want a game that harks back to those classic games, and they played those classic games, they must surely realise that that's just mechanically how those games worked. You know, you can't... MMOs are complex, and you can't design a game like EverQuest. And or when you design a game like EverQuest, players at some point are gonna work it out, and they're gonna find the best way of doing things. And I think it's a real shame when coders or developers say, "I don't want the player to do that, so I'm going to get rid of it." I feel that's a real shame, because as I said, like my example at the start of the previous example, like if the EverQuest developers had that, I know that they did nerf some classes and that kind of thing, but if they had that mentality, then Nibrus's videos, they wouldn't exist, because they wouldn't be possible, you know. And crawling through a dungeon wouldn't be, as a group and a solo player, wouldn't be as exciting as it is, because they'd have homogenised the experience. So all the classes did the same. None of the classes could do what the developers didn't want them to do. And all of these little tricks and tips, I know some people might call them exploits, but I don't think they are. I think they're just enterprising players who are very good, have found certain ways of doing things. An exploit to me, obviously, is walking up to, you know, Lady Vox and one-shotting her because you've worked out an exploit. That's an exploit. You know, a lot of these things that players have found over the years that give EverQuest its nuance, and I don't think are exploits. I just think that they're happenings that happen when you design an MMO, because it's difficult to control everything. And as I said, EverQuest wouldn't be the game it was if the developers had that mentality to do that. Like New World tried to do it. Like players found a way of. This is just landscape stuff, by the way. I don't know why they were so worried about it, but they created this horrible grindy system where you had to open chests to get loot to increase your gear score. And when they found out that enterprising players were able to loot the chests as solo on their own, then they introduced stuff to try to players to stop them doing that. And I think that's the wrong attitude. And it wasn't as though they tried any clever way of stopping it. It wasn't like a game mechanic thing. What they basically did was they took the cheap and easy route and they just put loads of ranged mobs around the chests, and it didn't really stop players, but it shows their level of creativeness, why that was the only way they could do it. But I mean, personally, I think it was a shame that they wanted to do it in the first place, because, as I said, I think when you design an MMO, there are going to be so many little quirks and bugs, even, and stuff like that. That's going to mean that players are going to find a way of doing things that maybe you didn't expect. But I think that's a good thing, as long as it's not a huge exploit where someone's made 1 million gold or they've killed a dragon in one shot. I don't think those things should be programmed out or coded out of the game. I think that they should look at them and think, wow, as I did when I watched Nibris's videos. Like, wow, who knew you could do that? I couldn't do it, right? But I still don't. I'm still not like, oh, he shouldn't be able to do that. I could play an enchanter to get to 60, but I couldn't perform in the way that he performs, because he's just, I'm probably twice his age, and and he's learned everything that he needs to learn about the class and the game and the mechanics and the way it works, and I haven't done that. So it was good to hear that. It was good to hear that it's group focused, but they're not trying to stop solo players doing anything. It was good to hear that they understand that some classes will be better than other classes, and the way that some classes is designed will just mean that they're better at soloing. I like the way that wasn't a problem. And I like the way that they kind of, passively told players who have a problem with people soloing, well, that's just an MMO, and it's been happening in MMOs for a long time. It's not a new thing. And if you're one of those people that feel that way and you've played MMOs, then you must feel that, you must understand that that's kind of how it's always worked. I think I'm gonna have to summon my pet here, because I can. You used to be able. This is one of those little tricks, actually, that I was talking about, where I can send my pet up and the pet will run up and aggro him without running around the route, and pull the mob back through the window. And that's something that I don't mind. I if I was looking at that, I wouldn't go, oh, I'm going to get rid of that. It's just one of those things that someone found a way of working around the systems in the game, and I think that's what MMOs are all about. I think that I was going to do a video about how I'm perceiving the new MMOs I'm playing in comparison to EverQuest, and there are some things about them that I do like, mostly around account stuff and how I feel it doesn't. Not every system does, but there are some systems I feel that respect my time a bit more. So I quite like the fact that there's there's a shared account bank. So if I want to transfer something to a character, I can put it in the shared bank. There's stuff like reputation and stuff, where if you gain reputation with a character on one of your characters, it's account wide. You don't have to grind it for every character. I really appreciate that stuff. But some of the stuff that I don't enjoy, and this is including like Lost Ark as well as New World, and even Final Fantasy 14 that I've played a little bit, is that the experience feels quite homogenized. And it's not the fact that, Final Fantasy 14, for example, is designed around having a solo experience. It's more the fact that there's little nuance in the combat. So everything is a strict rule, and if you don't follow that rule, then tough. And if you do find a way of breaking the rules, which I think is good in games and including MMOs, then we're going to get rid of it. So that's, I hope they stick true to that and they don't. I think, unfortunately, I know I feel like I'm kind of moaning about certain groups of people, but there you go. But I think, unfortunately, quite often people who feel that way are the sort of people who just have the loudest voice. You know, it's the same, exactly the same in politics or anything like that. You know, it's the, I don't want my pet to die particularly. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so that little quirk there, I'm glad I've showed you this. It's a perfect example of being able to use a little quirk in the collision and the game and stuff to pull that mob down. I thought that was, yeah, I like that. That's the kind of stuff that I hope they don't take out. Take out the one-shotting dragons and the pulling dragons through floors and they die, and you know, making 1 million gold in one click. That, get rid of that sort of stuff, but keep the quirks in the game, because it's looking back on it 23 years later, it's what makes EverQuest what it is now, and I think it's important to hang on to that. I think it's important to keep that, because this game wouldn't be the game it is. You know, I remember back in the day, a lot of people moaned about the nerfs that they made. I particularly remember Mage and Necro pets, and I'm not saying that was the right or wrong thing to do. You know, it probably needed doing. I don't know. I didn't play those classes at the time. Follow back. Yeah, I didn't play those classes at the time, but so you're going to get some of that, and some of that, unfortunately, does sometimes come from. It's really annoying, this little god Anaphar. Yeah, and some of that will come from people moaning and complaining and shouting the loudest. That's always seems to be the way it works. But I'm 100% fingers crossed, hoping that they resist that kind of pressure. You know, and yeah, we see a game that resembles EverQuest in a sense that it hasn't been coded to within inches of its life, so everything runs, you know, so everything is kind of fitted in a box. But yeah, there you go. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll speak to you again soon.